What's up,
I'm
everybody?
Dominic from Polygon. Look.
Happy Encryption Day. My name's Mac. I do content at Fhenix. And before we get started, let's have everybody else on the panel here introduce ourselves. The title of the panel, by the way, is ZK versus FHE. I think by the end of this talk, the goal is we're going to definitively know which is the superior technology. So rest assured, you shall have those answers. But yeah, let's have everybody else introduce themselves. How about we start with you, sir?
Hi, what's going on, everyone? Good morning. My name's Daniel Lumi. I'm the Senior Product Manager of zkStack for zkSync at Matter Labs. It's a mouthful.
Cool. Hi, I'm Dominic. I'm from Polygon Maiden.
Kyle, I'm the dev role at Fhenix.
Cool. So yeah, you know, my opening, I was being a little tongue-in-cheek. I think it's a human tendency to think of things sort of adversarially, but actually there's a lot of commonalities between ZK and FHE, right? Namely that these are both privacy-enhancing technologies, and what is the use of these things, or why are these things important? It's because math is more trustworthy than human beings, oftentimes, right? And math also is better at keeping secrets. So I just wanted to start there with some like common ground, you know, before you guys start duking it out. But yeah, maybe we could, now that we've sort of set the common ground, I'd love to hear like high level from you all, sort of how you view the differences between ZK and FHE. And I'll just leave it open.
Honestly, I just, like, they're both great technologies. The difference is what state of maturity are they in, and when can we enable these for privacy. So you can do a UTXO model using ZK for privacy. Like, this is a very good way to have a private and public state. You could have like private state be UTXO and public state be account model, but that still leaks some information, right? The second you're doing transactions in public state, you're leaking some information. So honestly, the end game of privacy for at least Ethereum is FHE. The problem is FHE is really computationally expensive. Like it is, you need beefy computers to be able to participate. So the node set might be limited. So I think like these are stepping stones towards actually enabling privacy on Ethereum or on different layers. I hope to see the end game being FHE L2, which is really gonna take about 10, 15 years to get to that point. That's a big circuit. But like I see those as being complementary technologies.
Yeah, I would mostly agree. Like I think the difference in my understanding of these two technologies is that with a zero knowledge proof, you try to prove the truthfulness or the validity of a statement, and you don't, like, the data never leaves the local state, for example. So like when you locally prove a zero knowledge proof, then the data never leaves, the statement basically never leaves the computer. Whereas with FHE, you do some operation on some data, you manipulate the data somehow, and so the data leaves your computer and it is still encrypted, but it is just another, like, another means for, like, you do something else with it. You could encrypt a mempool, which would be super complex with ZK, but with ZK you can just prove a statement, send a proof, and everyone knows it's correct, but even in the future, no one will ever know what the data was inside this zero knowledge proof. And so it's for different things. I would say ZK at the moment is more for scaling than for privacy. Like, you can enhance privacy with ZK, and you can build blockchains that are privacy preserving. They all use ZK, like Aztec, Maiden, Aleo. But like blockchains just scale way better if execution and state stays with the user locally, and the blockchain stays super slim. Whereas FHE, as you said, is like computationally super intense, and like, but we could encrypt a mempool, and this, like, if we have a blockchain with only public state, or if we have a blockchain with public state, then FHE could help us to keep data private there, at least for a time until I reveal it. So it's just for, it's complementary technology, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that to some degree, zk and FHE are kind of like two different technologies trying to solve like different problems. Like, it's touched on scalability. To me, zk is kind of like used primarily for like proof, like verification, like constant time verification, scaling, etc. Which again can be very useful for like single. There are a lot of applications where like zk is good for privacy if it's kind of like a single user. I think if you have like adversarial data, for example, or you're trying to like compute on multiple people's private stuff, then FHE kind of does play a pretty good part. I think the aspect of like these FHE operations like need to be verified somehow. So, I think there is a lot of overlap and collaboration possibilities.
Thanks everybody for that. That was like a great high-level overview. I'm a simple guy. I like concrete examples. I wonder, maybe we could start with you, Kyle, of like if you were to provide like a use case of maybe something that FHE is uniquely capable of delivering on. Maybe that would help us sort of ground these concepts. Like, when is the best time to use one over the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I try to, I think in general, like if you get fancy enough with anything, you can kind of solve a lot of things with a lot of different tools. It's kind of just like, what are the trade-offs? For example, like one of the first things that comes to my mind is like DeFi. When I try to think of like, okay, let's say we want to have like a simple V2, AMM contract, for example, but we wanted to, try to keep the whole thing private, versus just kind of the transactions, the mempool, maybe doing some sort of like ordering or batching before it actually executes to the state of the contract. For something like that, you might not necessarily need to use FHE, but I think FHE is probably the ideal solution if you're trying to keep like the pools encrypted, people's liquidity positions, et cetera. And the reason for this is because like, instead of having to do like a round, for example, like each time someone wants to like kind of verify their part of this private state, the FHE, using FHE in general, you can kind of just run these with these operations. So I think keeping, basically because multiple users are going to be interacting with this pool, going to have their own private inputs, et cetera, and it's going to contribute to like, I guess, the sum, if you would, like of these balances. So that's like an example for me that comes to mind when I think of like when to use, I guess, like on-chain privacy with FHE versus other solutions.
And for the ZK crew, is there anything that comes to mind that you think is like uniquely enabled by that, or?
I mean, again, we've been using it for the succinctness property, right? So we use it to prove like the correctness of execution onto L1 to be able to scale Ethereum. That's what we've been doing so far. zkSync went through our protocol upgrade 3.0, so we're moving to the elastic chain design, and part of that was enabling Validium rollups as well. So now you can essentially have data off-chain and still prove the execution correctness. You submit the state root and a proof to L1 to show that you still executed correctly. So what this enables today is, for example, having a bank or having enterprise. Like this is the funny thing about privacy. It's become this sort of anarchist statement. No enterprise will ever use blockchain, ever, if it's not private. Like, they won't do it. They have trade secrets. They have customer data. They have laws that protect them. So using Validium, you can have actually off-chain data. You still have either centralized parties or you have data availability committees that hold the data on behalf of their consumers. Like, regulators can still issue subpoenas for that data. But you essentially have, like, we call it enterprise-level privacy on blockchain. I don't think that's really quite a good terminology for it, though, because it's still proving the correctness of execution. So if you imagine like a model where you have two banks, each of them have their own Validium chains, they're sending transactions to each other. Like, cool, it's private, it's what we have today. But the difference is the verifiability of execution. Neither bank has to trust the other bank. Neither bank can just lie in their numbers of how much they have. They can't rehypothecate assets. They don't have to audit each other. They don't have to do reconciliation. They don't have to do hedging of counterparty risk. This literally saves banks hundreds of millions of dollars. every single bank, and banks are really waking up. It's an exciting time to be in crypto, having these conversations with banks. Like, this is gonna happen, and it's gonna happen soon. And currently, the viable technology that we have for enabling this in a decentralized setting is by using zk Validiums. And those are live today. Like, you could launch a chain on mainnet today with that.
Maybe you could even go one step further and say, like, a unique use case could be provable compliance, which also could pay into that. So, like, before zk, I think it was super hard to stay private and still be able to prove to a regulatory body, maybe even a year ago, like that I did not interact with certain addresses, or I did not do X, Y, Z. So as long as this regulatory requirement is somehow provable in a zk proof, I can like put it into a program and then execute that transaction. No one knows what I actually did, but as long as this program ran correctly, at least everyone knows that I complied to a certain set of rules. And this is a super strong, even novel use case, I would say, that is possible with zk, client-side proving, and blockchains that could help us to bridge the gap between this fundamental right of privacy and the right of the society to kind of know what, like that you did comply to a certain minimum set of rules. And I think this is a super cool new use case for zk, basically.
That's for identity too. Like that's one of the zk applications. Like again, I think FHE and zk go hand in hand in different situations. Like one of the cool things with zk is we have Quark ID deployed on the Elastic chain. That's the official digital identity solution of all of Argentina. So they have close to 1 million digital certificates, identities already issued. And at some point, that's going to become the de facto solution. So there'll be 40 million people with their digital identity on zkSync. And again, it's like these little things of like let's say you're going to a bar, you're buying alcohol. You don't have to show that you're 32, 75. You can just show you're over 18, right? You don't have to do KYC separately with every single exchange, every bank account. Your fucking Uber that you get onto, you don't have to scan your passport. You can just show this is a valid citizen. So, like, trusted counterparty privacy is easy. Cryptographically verifiable privacy is hard, and it's really kind of cool to see the world moving into like actually fucking having these magic maths that can actually enable like trustless privacy in real life. It's as a privacy advocate, it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, I think used together just real quickly, like I think a solid process could be kind of using zk for like what you're saying, like proof of you're part of a group where you followed certain rules, and then from there once you pass that maybe you can use like sort of like FH, you can interact with like that private protocol, DeFi in that case. So it's sort of like using them together is I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, very cool. I agree, very exciting. We just have a few minutes left, but before we wrap up, you kind of went there already, but I would love to hear from you guys, like what you see the future, like the short-term future. What does it look like? Are we going to have privacy on these public blockchains? What technology are people going to use? Is it going to? It sounds like, if I were to guess, it's going to be sort of a hybrid approach, right? These technologies are in fact complementary, but yeah, any thoughts there on what the future sort of short to medium term looks like?
I think there's going to be pushback, right? But at the same time, like, regulators are not very fast. Like, they kind of, and by design, they move kind of slowly. And the nice thing is, like, companies are waking up to just the massive amount of savings or use cases that there is in blockchain. And it's like, genuinely, the calls that I have weekly are kind of crazy. The world's finally changing towards people recognizing the potential of blockchain. And at that point, privacy will kind of by default be enabled because, again, these government use cases, they don't want to leak their citizens' data to every single person too. Like it's gonna become de facto built into the system. There might be more pushback on like just pure UTXO, like where no one can reveal data might be more dangerous, but I do see us moving into like a cryptographically verifiable, like at least at least a scheme where you can reveal your own data, or some intermediary can reveal your data, and it's going to move there pretty quickly. Like these are required technologies. The internet would not work without encryption. You could not buy things online. You could not use credit cards without encryption. Like you probably don't want to leave your phone unlocked for every single person to walk up to. Like encryption is a human right. Privacy is a human right. We've stigmatized the word beyond what people realize that they expect in their day-to-day life. So I think blockchain is going to start finally moving towards more of a privacy-centric design. And I see finally a realistic path moving towards that.
Yeah, I like that. Privacy comeback.
Yeah, also, I think privacy is a continuum, and with all these human rights, I think there's no absolute right to it, and so especially in the given regulatory context, we will see many hybrids, many experiments, like what does the market want, what do regulators allow, what are projects willing to risk, and but I think in the end, we will have private blockchains and blockchains with privacy, because this is the only way how normal users will use it. Like even I don't want to have my salary on a blockchain and everyone sees it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure as we're all familiar, it was stated like, FHE at least has a lot of, at least like in terms of like computational costs, need to speed up to some degree. But from a higher level, and hopefully we'll start seeing like mainnets like in the near future. But I do think from a high level in terms of like governmental privacy, I mean, I think that's a tricky one. Hopefully, we can kind of reclaim it, maybe make privacy not such like a naughty word or whatever. And I think that hopefully it's really going to come down to like how much do people like actually care about privacy? Because sometimes I question that. Like I think to some degree we've kind of just like accepted that like everything is getting logged somewhere by someone, and we just live with that. So I guess it'll be interesting to see if maybe like this privacy is a default, where like kind of initially you already have privacy, and like in order to give other people access, you have to do that manually. I wonder if that'll change like the way people think from like a societal level, but I guess we'll see in the future.
Cool. Well, this has been great, guys. Great to meet you, and thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks so much.